Hey there, divers! Today I'm going to be showing you how to dive Shipwreck off Catalina Island, California. Shipwreck has a lot to offer the intrepid diver, everything from large soaring rock structures, epic deep sea walls, all the way to very sunny, shallow kelp forests, home to plenty of our favorite fishy friends. Shipwreck is an excellent place for divers of all levels and capabilities. Today I'm going to be showing you all of these features so that hopefully you have a well-rounded view of the entirety of this site. I'm going to present you with a bunch of maps and even some hypothetical dive plans that you can go and follow for yourself. Get your boat ticket, fill those tanks, and let's go diving. It's time to go to Shipwreck. Hold on there, diver. Is your dry suit on the verge of death? Are you absolutely losing it thinking about sending your precious suit to some schmuck in Illinois? Well, cut it out. Send it to the dry suit lady. She can glue it! Of course, your day is going to start like many others with a quick trip across the channel out to Catalina. After your crossing, you'll come to this pretty unassuming spit of rock. It'll be about a mile from the shore of the island. If we take a look at Catalina, we can see Shipwreck located here on the west end of the island, just offshore, close to Twin Harbors and very far from Avalon. Keep in mind that Shipwreck is not the same as Bird Rock pictured here. They're very different structures, even though they are quite close together, both near Twin Harbors. I recommend using the Giant Stride to visit Shipwreck if you like a little more leg room, or the Sundiver Express if you want to get there a little quicker and have some of Captain Kaya's delicious cooking. While Shipwreck might be a little bit lackluster above the surface, with nothing but a lot of bird shit to look at, underwater it has a lot more to offer us divers. If we take a quick look at our map here, you can see that the structure below water is many times larger than that above. Underwater, we have an incredible variety from shallow reefs going all the way up to the surface to deep walls stretching to almost 50 meters. Much more than any diver could really appreciate in one dive. Our structure is about 100 meters by 150 meters or 3.5 acres of diveable area. On the surface, we have our main rock here with the little blinky light on top, a small wash rock that's basically connected to it, and a little bit further south is the South Wash Rock. These are going to be some of our main features as we're looking at our map. We can see our Southern Wash Rock there, a very shallow piece of water in between our main rock, and then north of the main rock, we have a nice shallow plateau. You can see those two wash rocks here, off in the distance, Avalon, and much closer, Twin Harbors. While I definitely think that Shipwreck can be appreciated best from a scooter, it also has a lot to offer kicking divers. There's plenty of places to hang out nice and shallow and just observe the fish life without having to do circles around the entire structure. Of course, if you wanted to do circles around the entire structure, please keep in mind that being deeper means that your circle is going to be a lot larger. You can cut your total distance as well as your gas usage per meter in half by diving at 5 meters instead of 35 meters. So if you really wanted to kick it all the way around, you definitely could, you just gotta plan it smart. Now let's take a look at our maps for a general overview before we get a little bit more granular with each area of the site. As mentioned previously, Shipwreck is a very large site with a lot of variety. The east and west of the site are made of chunky rocks flowing down to sand at about 30 meters, while the north and south of the site are more sheer rock walls. As you can see, the site is a lot longer than it is wide. If you're looking for kelp, most of it is located above 20 meters. If you're looking for wet rocks, that will be located between 20 and 40 meters. Getting a little closer to the north side, we can see the main rock cascading down into a shallow plateau. From there, dropping down into a much deeper rock wall. This is what I consider to be the main draw and feature of the site. From 30 to 50 meters, the northern wall wraps all the way around from the west side to the eastern side, made up of several sections with craggly rock points separating them. The southern rock wall, on the other hand, starts at the Southern Wash Rock and drops down to about 30 meters, where a slightly shorter wall begins, this one made of just one point. Starting at basically the southern tip of the rock formation, it wraps around to the eastern side predominantly. The southern wash rock is also home to a really fantastic shallow wall-ish segment. It's got some really cool rocky features that are shallow from 5 to 15 meters. In between the southern wash rock and the main rock, we have a large shallow section. This can be really nice on calm days, but a bit of a washing machine on heavier surge days. If we take a closer look at the eastern side, we can see those sharply dropping rocky structures on the southern point, wrapping around to the northern side. This is a pretty steep slope, just made of large rocks. In comparison, the western side drops off a lot more gradually. There's a large, shallow section on the southern side that wraps into an armpit right next to the main rock, and that turns into a large rocky plateau with a pretty decent wall there on the north side. The large shallow section on the south side is predominantly just small boulders with kelp growing from them. It's a nice spot for newer divers to hang out and appreciate the sight. Similarly, the northern shallows is an excellent place for newer divers to hang out. It's got a very soft slope going down toward the main rock wall on the north side, as well as being home to some pretty interesting rock structures in itself. This little plateau and rock wall on the northwest side is one of the more interesting features. It's definitely worth taking a look. It's quite an impressive sheer slab of rock. Now that we've got kind of a general overview of the site, let's get a little bit more in depth about the different areas. North of the main rock is the northern shallows, 0 to about 10 meters. The northern wall, the main attraction in my opinion, is about 10 to 40 meters here. On the opposite side, we have the south wall. This goes all the way from the surface, 0 to 40 meters at the deepest, most southern point. Between our rocks, we have the top shallows. This is going to be 0 to about 5 meters here. Very small little area. West of the main rock that you see above the surface, we call that the west side. 0 to about 30 meters. West of the southern wash rock is the western shallows, a large blank area of shallow rocks that's perfect for newer divers. Finally, the east side, a rather bland slope of smaller boulders. It's very steep, but there's really not a lot to see here. Now, let's get a little bit more in depth, starting with the wall, the northern wall specifically. This is the most interesting feature of the site, in my opinion, and where I would be spending most of my time if I was going for a dive at Shiprock. The northern wall spans the entire northern border of the site, from the steep eastern slope to the soft western slope. On the eastern side, it starts around 30 meters before quickly dropping to about 40 meters at the eastern fingers. There are 3 distinct rocky fingers on this side with large boulders filling in the webbing between them. The westernmost finger turns quickly with its base at about 50 meters. From there, it makes a large arc toward the western point, the coolest point, before quickly rising back up to 30 meters. Let's start with the western point. There's lots of really cool rocky features here, dropping from 35 to 55 meters, and it's where I would go if I could only go one place at this site. At the very tip of this point is a nice square rock dropping all the way from about 35 to 50 meters. There's lots of nice big gorgonians growing on the sides of this rock. It's a really cool spot to just hang out, hover over the abyss, check out some of those deeper encrusting organisms that like to hang out here. Just south of that nice rocky point is this big pillar of rock jutting up from the wall. This segment gets shorter rapidly as the sandy bottom comes up to meet the slope, so it's pretty recognizable. Large square coming off of a slanted bottomed wall. Lots of boulders on one side and then the empty abyss on the other. Next to that pillar is a large slab of rock that comes up a few meters from the bouldery slope. It's a very cool striated rock, and it's a great landmark if you are swimming down from the northern shallows. You hit this rock, you know that you're just about to get to the wall. This is more important on days where you can't see 100 feet in every direction, like we got to experience here in some of these clips. The area at the base of the point has some lovely scrabbly boulders and good encrusting growth. This is the one spot on the site where I've seen lingcods hanging out on the rocks, something that you don't typically see out here. I think it's fun to fly up through this crease and then come out over the wall where it's at its steepest and deepest. Very cool experience. Here's another shot of us flying past that squared tip. Some nice gorgonians hanging off there. You can see there's some jumbled rocks at the bottom, and then this bouldery field up here. If you're coming down here, this is where I would like to be hanging out, especially if I was just kicking it. Thankfully, we're all on scooters, so we're gonna go see a lot more of the site on this dive. But if I was just kicking it down here, this is where I would come, hang out for a couple minutes, and then head my way back up. Now let's talk about those fingers on the eastern side. The sand drops away very quickly, creating the start of the wall. There's 3 points here, like I mentioned before. In this shot, we're headed north along the eastern slope, transitioning to the wall as the sand drops away there. You can see the rock remains. Note the cool overhanging formations here on the left side and the big clouds of chromies hanging out. The wall is super sharp here, basically a 90-degree corner, and it even has some overhangs here. As you can see, between the first and second fingers, there's a large rock pile at the base of the wall that distinguishes it from some of the other spots. This is the second finger headed toward the third. You can see there's a big boulder on top of the second finger, lots of overhangs and some nice cevallias growing off that wall. You can see here clearly between the second and third finger that there are these large boulders filling in the kind of webbing between them. And that's what makes the fingers stand out, is that they don't have any of these boulders at the tips, but they do have them at the bases. Here we have that westernmost point, the third point. This is the one that transitions into the western side of the wall. This is right in the center of the whole wall itself. So if you find yourself here, you know you've got a lot of stuff to see on either side. While I prefer the westernmost point, this central finger is very impressive. It's got a very dramatic face and nice clean white sand at the bottom. Here we see Josh riding past the point and a little pan down its length to the sand below. And here we've got a quick time lapse as we follow that full arc. As we're coming into the corner here, the sand comes up a bit, but the wall is still 20-25 feet tall. And then here we have to follow the arc south a little bit slower. With Josh in frame, you can get a better sense of the scale of this piece of rock. On this dive, we had an absolute flurry of chromies along the edge of the reef here. Excellent visibility if it wasn't for all the fish. Here we see the center of that large arc. It's a kind of a pillory looking structure, and then there's some of that nice chunky wall on the eastern side of the western point. There's some large fins of rock kind of sticking out of the cliffside here. This is where I see most of those lingcods hanging out. Here's another time lapse following that arc westward. This was on the day with the real big school of chromies out here. You can see we're following west, and then we hit that main point before wrapping around it and then heading south toward the southern side of the site. Now that we're headed south, we can see the big pillar, and the sand is going to start coming up to meet the rocks on the western slope. Now that we're done with the northern wall, let's take a look at the northern shallows, a lovely place to start a dive. The northern shallows are a bit of a weird shape, connecting to the main rock on the south side and sagging to the west at a small wall and point-like structure, and rounding nicely into the eastern wall. The northern shallows are full of life, a nice place to see some kelp and keep it nice and shallow. There's usually a lot of fish life in the area. In my experience, this is also a common place for boat captains to anchor up. The central shallows up against the main rock are really cool, but a bit surgy. I like to watch the waves break on the rocks from below. It's a pretty cool perspective. If you go further north, you get to the northern slope that drops down quickly from about 15 meters to 30. This connects up to the northern wall. The eastern side has some really nice low-lying kelp. It does drop off very quickly to the east as it merges into the eastern slope. Not a lot of cool big rocks over here, just a lot of medium boulders tumbling down into the deep, but it does usually have some pretty good sunshine, and it's just a nice place to hang out. The western side of the shallows has some much more interesting rocky structures. There's a main wall and plateau piece seen here, and then above that, nearer to the main rock, there's some cool little chunks and square boulders. Here we see that little wall, and then we fly into the crevices between some of the boulders, headed toward that central shallow area. This is a really fun place for me to hang out and do circles on the scooters, or bob around and look in the crevices for critters when we're kicking it. You can see the main rock on the left dropping into that little wall on the right through the bouldery areas, and then that heads down into the western slope. Like I said, this can be a popular spot for boats to anchor, as it gives a lot of options for divers of all levels to have a safe dive. Hang out here close to the boat, or you can head north down to those deeper structures. Here we are, just hanging out, blowing some bubbles. This is a fantastic spot to just hang out, do some scuba diving. You can see the main rock on the right side of the screen there, and then dropping off on the left side down toward that northern wall. There were some really nice big schools of half moons hanging out here on this day. Just to set expectations, of course, the viz isn't always amazing like it is in most of this video. Sometimes, even on Shiprock, you get dark, green, murky days. Here we are hanging out in the northern slope in darkness. But clear or cloudy and everything in between, it's still a lovely place to do a little diving, especially on the northern shallows. Here it is a little bit later in the summer when there was some thicker kelp growth and a little bit more sponge in the water. Next up, let's talk about the southern slope and the little rocky features that it holds. Again, this is everything from the southern wash rock at the surface down to the bottom of the southern wall at about 40 meters. If we take a look at our 3D model here, you can see our little wash rock on the southern side. You can see there's a nice steep section real close up to the surface, everything from about 5 to 20 meters, and then it mushrooms out on a gravelly slope down to the top of the wall, about 30. These shallower walls up here on the south side are really, really lovely. There's some cool, like little spiry structures that I really enjoy, and that wraps around to the eastern side. Some of the rocks even have the small yellow anemones that you see at Farnsworth and Bird Rock. These are really cool little things to check out, get a shot of. From a distance, the wall is pretty epic with a tiny little point just touching the surface and then dropping away into the abyss, the dark blue on the right side there. There's usually some slight kelp growth here, just enough to let you know how the current is flowing. Here you can see the kelp is laid completely flat. The current is ripping past the south side here. Typically I find the north and south side are where you're going to experience most of the current here. Because of its exposure to the current, it is a little bit better to experience on a day with lower flow, like this one here. The wall on the south side here isn't quite as epic as the one on the north side, but it's still a neat spot to check out and well worth visiting at least once in your diving career. It is, of course, pretty deep and you don't get a ton of time to hang out here, but it's very cool. There's these large rounded rocks on the slope coming down, and it kind of hits the edge of the wall where it's an absolute 90-degree corner straight down to about 40 meters. There's even a little bit of an overhang in some spots. Next up, let's talk about the top level shallows. This is the small space between the two wash rocks. It's very small and very shallow and very sunny when the conditions are correct. So this may be the smallest part of the site. Its shallow depth and excellent sunlight make it a great place to spend a safety stop or a little bit of a deco time. As you can see, it's an absolutely fantastic spot to hang out. This is where you're more likely to see some Garibaldis hanging out, some schools of half moons. There's lots of nice rocks and some soft kelp growth. Up against the southern wash rock is my favorite piece of the site as seen here. The western side is a little bit boring, as the slope on that side isn't quite as dramatic. As you can see here, the rocks just aren't as lovely, and there's not as much interesting stuff to see up against the main surface rock here on the northwest side. Now let's talk about the western side. This is the slope west of the main rock. It is south of the northern slope and is north of the western shallows. This area is a bit of an armpit where two structures meet and the slope subducts toward the main rock. You can see there's a plateau to the north as well as the south. This subduction results in a very dramatic rocky slope that goes up from the sand line toward the main rock. On the northern side, the slope turns into the western side of the northern wall at its bottom. Here you can see that plateau dropping down a gravelly slope to the beginnings of the northern wall and the abyss on the left side. From the bottom, looking up at that plateau, it's a pretty cool piece of structure. It's a very nice little wall. Definitely recommend checking it out. It's a good landmark to hit if you are trying to swim down to the northern wall. It's pretty barren otherwise. There's not a lot to look at except for those nice big rocks. Let's take a look at that large rock wall on the northern border. It's quite an impressive, solid slab of rock, and it's shallow enough to get to hang out and spend some time appreciating it. Here you can see that big slab from about 10 to 20 meters. It's a very large square rock that's well worth seeing. As I travel north here, you can see the northern slope going down and to the left, and the northern shallows up and to the right. It's a really lovely piece of rock. There's lots of nice little nooks and crannies to look for lobsters and other crusty creatures in. Traveling along the base of the slope where the rocks meet the sand is again pretty barren. Not a lot to see here, mainly just a place to travel through to get from one landmark to the next. In this shot, you can see us just traveling, hanging out about 25-30 feet above the sand, following that line so that we can get down to the southern wall. Here we have the western shallows. The western shallows is a large shelf of small boulders on the southwest side of the site. It's a great place for newer divers to hang out. It's mainly between 20 meters and the surface, which makes it a very friendly place for single tank divers. Here we can see the central area. It's quite shallow on the east and gets deeper towards the west as it drops down to the sand line. Where it borders the top shallows on the eastern side, it's going to be about 5 meters, and that's slowly going to round out to about 20. The very edge of the rocks here is going to be almost 30 meters, but most of that area, like I said, is going to be a little bit shallower than 20. There's not too much danger of falling off into the deep. Here's the view right next to the main rock, again, about 5 meters of water. And here's the edge of the kelp on the western side, about 20 meters, just before it starts to get really steep and really drop down towards that sand line. On the south side of the shallows, there's a small pinnacle rock that lets you know you're getting close to the southern wall section of the site. Here we can see that rock in the gentle slope headed southward toward the southern wall. It's not exactly a super impressive structure, but is a nice little landmark to let you know that you are on the southern side of the western shallows. Now, if you follow that slope deeper and further south, you'll eventually get to the southern deep wall. And here's what that southern side looks like, just large boulders softly descending into the sand toward the south. Let's talk about the eastern side. Now this is basically just a big smooth slope made of medium-sized boulders headed from the surface at the main rock down to about 30 meters. This whole area is probably the most bland part of the site, absolutely homogeneous from tip to tail, just the exact same size rocks stretching across a massive slope. That said, there are some cool orange anemones here, like on the south side, and the rocks have plenty of crevices for critters to hide in, like this fun little moray friend. On the shallow northwestern side, we go up to the main rock, plenty of sun and surge, and it's a pretty cool spot to see the rock through the Snell's window. This is probably the best part of the east side. I like to hang out here, look up at the main rock through the surface reflection, and just enjoy the little bit of kelp that's over here, some good sunlight on a good day. It's about all you can ask for, really. Here you can see what I mean about that vision of the main surface rock through the surface. In the southern section, it comes in contact with the southern wall and the top shallows. Again, this is more of a transitional space when you're heading from one large feature to the next. You can see the top shallows in the center of the frame there, the main rock off to the right, the southern wash rock to the left. It's really just a slope that you're trying to get past. The north side transitions into the northern slope, and the bottom of that part of the wall becomes the easternmost edge of the northern wall. The rock meets the sand in a sharp straight line all the way from the southern wall to the northern. Here you can see us traveling along the bottom of the eastern wall, very clean transition from rock to sand, and then here we see it transitioning into the eastern side of the northern wall. Now that we've covered the major landmarks in depth, let's get a little deeper on some of the potential dive plans that you could execute to enjoy Shiprock. A lovely scooter dive that I recommend is to head down the northeast side and approach the wall from the south. You can see here the beginnings of the wall with the sand dropping away quickly and that lovely overhang there with the abyss beyond. Off to the side, we have the open water with the big clouds of chromies hanging out. Here we're already at about 35 meters. You can see some of those really nice sea fans growing out there, reds and cevallias. Just tons of chromies out here today. Coming around that first finger. From there, we're going to ride along the edge of the wall to the central point, the western finger. I'm going to take a nice wide corner around that point, check it out a little bit. Follow the big arc to the western point. This really is my favorite place on the entire site, especially on a good viz day like today, where you can see way out into the abyss like this. Not only to the bottom of the rock at about 150 feet, but much farther out onto the sandy slope beyond. You can even see the shadows of some rocky structures way out in the distance. Next, we're going to head up the western slope, heading southward toward the south wall. You can see where the western slope hits the sand here, just boulders meeting clean sand at 100 feet. We like to make our way a little bit shallower here as we get toward the southern side of the rock. You can see us getting a lot closer to the surface, and we're cruising past those cool rock structures on the southern wall. Then wrap around the eastern side shallow, right up against the wash rock, and head into the northern shallows where we started our dive. At this point, we're going to be at about 20 feet, so we can knock out our safety stop, or a little bit of deco if we are so obliged. If I was to kick my way to the wall, I'd also start in the northern shallows and find the large rock on the northwest side. Here you can see the rock on the right side, and the slope going down to the northwest leads right to the wall, the sand below. From there, it's really easy to just follow that slope down, and you are guaranteed to hit the wall, the most interesting part of the wall. Now this is where I try to spend all of my NDL time. Besides the absolute deepest parts, the rocks a bit higher up next to the pillar are really cool, and I often see big lingcod and cabezon hanging out there, as I mentioned before. It's definitely not necessary to go down to 140 to have a good time here. Once you're all done there, you can let your NDL chase you up the slope past the long slab and follow the chunky rocks to the northern shallows. Again, we're heading past our big chunky rock slab here. Once again, once you get up to these northern shallows, you can burn the rest of your gas looking in the crevices or knock out that safety stop while looking at some very cool rocks and fun kelp. If you wanted to keep things really shallow, you could just start up next to the main rock and then follow the edge of the plateau up here all the way around to the main wall. This way you'd be keeping your dive all above about 20 meters, even if you went down to the bottom side of this rocky wall segment. And then you could come back up towards the main rock structure and hang out in the real shallow areas. If you like to feel like you're flying like me, you might come out over the edge of the abyss here at the top of the kelp stipes and hang out in the open blue water before coming back in towards the rock. If you want to check out these southern walls, I might start at the wash rock and then head southwest toward the rock pillar. It should be pretty easy to find as the only largish rock in the western shallows. Once you find that pillar, it's easy enough to head due east toward the wall segments next to the southern wash rock. Once you get there, you can hang out, check out the little structures, look at the anemones, find some critters, and then head north toward the east side of the wall. Again, I might hang out in the blue, just enjoy flying around. As soon as that compass turns north, you know that you've hit the eastern wall, and you can come up close to the wash rock. From there, I might even cut things a little bit farther north and enjoy some of the northern shallows before then wrapping around the south side of the wash rock. Of course, you could always just travel straight across the top shallows to the western shallows, but I like to hang around the southern side of the wash rock because it's just nice to watch the water lap. And just like that, we're back where we started. Alrighty then, divers, thanks for following along. I really appreciate you watching all the way through this excessively long and detailed look at Ship Rock. I hope you get out there, blow some bubbles, and try this site out for yourself. Safe diving. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye now.